Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Saturday, April 12th, 2025. Today is day 554. Greetings from Jerusalem. One of the things I think that's so important to understand here in Jerusalem, in the Middle East, in the Arab world, in Israel, is the vast majority of people here have very different perspectives about what's happening. And what I mean is what people see on the news is actually very, very different. In the Middle East, in the Arab world, people see on the news every single day the bodies of children being killed. In Gaza, people dying in the West Bank, people being displaced. And news in the Middle East is not like news in the United States. It's pretty unedited. It's bloody. It's hard to watch. News in the US is hard to watch, but news in the Middle East, it's different. In the Arab world, you see it all. And I can only imagine that it causes layers of secondary trauma throughout the Middle East and the Arab world. And just as the Middle East is inundated every single day with what life is like in the occupied Palestinian territories, in the West Bank, and the visceral images of how catastrophic the situation is in Gaza, Israelis are sheltered from it. This is not an excuse, but I think it's really important to understand. Israelis are being told messages from their political leaders like, there's no starvation in Gaza. There's not a hunger issue. There's plenty of food in Gaza. The majority of Israelis don't have any idea of what Gaza is really like. They don't see footage or images of people dying and blood in terms of the death and the destruction. Not only that, they don't see the footage hardly at all. Not only has Al Jazeera been banned from Israel and the occupied West Bank, the Palestinian Authority banned Al Jazeera. And just for the record, Al Jazeera is a moderate Middle East news source compared to, some of the other potential options that are out there. And so the majority of Israelis have limited access. Now, you might say, sure, they can go on YouTube or they can watch videos or they can see things on social media, but it's important to understand that Meta and the other data analysis, it feeds you images and videos of things and people and perspectives that in large part you're already in alignment with. And to find images or perspectives that you disagree with, you have to look and be motivated to look. Again, this is not justification, but I think it's important to understand. I just did an interview for an Egyptian news source based on the meeting that I had with the foreign minister of Egypt. And I felt like it was so important for news in the Middle East to hear perspectives that they might not otherwise be exposed to. And I hope that the translators were true to the words that I shared. I shared about how Israelis are protesting and calling what's happening in Gaza genocide. And dozens of Israelis just the other day got arrested, for example. And I think that's really important to talk about. I talked about some of the amazing people who are standing up against the policies of the Israeli government. Now, the interview questions were very anti-Israel, and I felt like I wanted to, with my understanding of the, speak truth about what's happening, but also share perspectives and alternative pictures that they might not otherwise be exposed to. That doesn't make anything okay, but it's hard to not paint different people groups with, a broad brushstroke that's monolithic. And so I think for all of us to try to expand our horizons to seek to understand things better, which is part of why we do these news updates every single day. So day 554, news from the past 24 hours from multiple news sources, as much as I'm able. I do use my news sources in English. Sometimes I look them up in Arabic, but just with limited time. Israeli news sources, Arab news sources, Western news sources, government news sources, and not feed into these updates. Hamas has said that their organization's leaders are set to arrive in Cairo to discuss a ceasefire agreement. They told French news sources this. They are set to meet with Egyptian officials, the Hamas source noted that they have not received any new proposals regarding a potential ceasefire or prisoner exchanges, but they said the delegation will be led by Hamas heads of negotiations, Khalil Ahaya. So that's happening in Cairo, while the Egyptian president al-Sisi is expected to go to Qatar and other countries in the region, including Kuwait. According to Al-Arabi Al-Jadid, Egypt recently submitted a ceasefire proposal between Israel and Hamas that reportedly includes the release of 9 living hostages in exchange for a 70-day truce. Now, this is the first time I've heard a 70-day truce. Previously, we were hearing a 40-day truce. So pray that a temporary to permanent ceasefire comes forward. The people of Gaza so desperately need it. IDF ordered residents of parts of Gaza City to evacuate. This just happened. This was Khan Yunis to evacuate their homes. This was according to a statement by the Arabic spokesperson of the IDF. His last name is Adri. Residents are being asked to move northwest towards a humanitarian zone in Mawasi. The IDF completed work on a route that divides South Gaza and surrounds Rafah. The IDF made that announcement today. The work was completed. This is along the route that is called Morag, M-O-R-A-G. This divides South Gaza into 2 sections. So now Gaza has 3 major divisions. The Netzarim corridor divides Gaza north, and then this new section divides the Morag route, divides the south into 2 separate sections. The Israeli army completely encircled Rafah, that's Gaza's southernmost city, which severed it completely from the rest of the strip. They said that they were doing this as a part of a security zone. As you know, when different areas have been designated as security zones, it has meant that people are not allowed to go there. And if people do, they have been shot at and killed indiscriminately. Israel has continued to attack the water systems of Gaza. One of the things that we've been talking about in these meetings with political officials is that ethnic cleansing and displacement can mean forcibly removing people from areas by physically removing them, or it can by definition mean creating conditions where people are not able to live. By destroying water supplies, you are forcibly removing people from those areas. And there is continued evidence of attacks on water system, blocking the repairs of water systems, which has left conditions absolutely catastrophic. This is according to UN humanitarian officials. 21 people were killed in the last day, 64 people injured. Since the outbreak of the war, the official death toll is 50,933 people killed. These are only those killed directly. If someone is injured and dies later from those injuries, it is not included in that number. 116,045 people wounded. Thousands are still listed as missing. Israel's seizure of Rafah has forced Palestinians to squeeze into Gaza. You will recall that Gaza has been one of the most populated areas of the earth prior to the October 2023 attacks. Al Jazeera posted this article from Jordan, again because it's been banned, saying that 250,000 Palestinians who call Rafah home can no longer access it. So they have been displaced outside of Rafah. Strategically speaking, this means the 2 crossings that have connected Gaza to the world, Kerem Abu Salem, that's in Arabic, Kerem Shalom in Hebrew. That crossing was the primary crossing where commercial goods and humanitarian assistance, and then again, the Rafah border crossing, which has allowed people to enter or to leave the enclave, both are now completely off limits. They are beyond the reach of Palestinians, which has tightened the siege on Gaza even more. Gaza is being squeezed. 2.1 million Palestinians being squeezed into an area that is a third of the Gaza Strip. 66% of Gaza is off limits to the population that lives there. Israel's Defense Minister Katz publicly stated the goal, he said, since the break of the ceasefire is to apply pressure on the civilian population. The ultimatum has been given. Topple Hamas, deliver the captives. Katz says this is the only way for the war to be brought to an end. The Israeli Arabic spokesperson ordered the residents of several neighborhoods in Khan Yunis to leave, warning of an imminent attack with great force. You'll recall, where are they going to leave to? only a third of Gaza is available for the entire population. Hamas said that they fired 3 rockets from the Gaza Strip, while the military said their Air Force intercepted the rockets. There have been no casualties. In terms of Iran, the U.S. and Iran had their talks today on de-escalating tensions, easing sanctions, and the nuclear program. They also discussed prisoner exchanges and limited agreements about the potential of easing sanctions in exchange for the control of Iran's nuclear program. That was according to an Amani source. So those high-level talks began. This is an attempt to jumpstart negotiations. And President Trump threatened that if this does not move forward into a deal, there will be military action. You'll recall he technically does not have the ability to go to war without an act of Congress, but that's called the War Powers Resolution. But I don't know that that would stop him. Iran's foreign minister said that the talks were finished and announced on state TV in Iran that there will be continued talks in the next week or so. So that was reported today on Iranian news. The U.S. did not comment. Iranian state TV also said that Steve Witkoff and the Iranian foreign minister, Aragachi, briefly spoke in the presence of the Yemeni foreign minister at the end of the talks, which marked a direct interaction between the two nations who have been locked in decades of tensions. Abu Saidi, who's the foreign minister of Oman, posted on social media that the meeting between Aragachi and Witkoff took place in, quote, a friendly atmosphere that was conducive to bridging viewpoints and ultimately achieving regional and global peace, security, and stability. It's quite the diplomatic statement. But American officials did not immediately acknowledge the Iranian reports, so those talks are set to continue soon. I will say more and more people in Israel are standing up and viewing Israel's ongoing atrocities in Gaza and the West Bank as an unjust war. There was an opinion piece that was just published in Haaretz. The title read, "Refusing to serve comes at a price, but I cannot support Israel's regime anymore. Despite my doubts about this war, I did not shirk my reserve duty, to which I reported faithfully, until that is, Israel renewed fighting this last month, making it clear the war's real goal is to keep the regime in power." There is very little question in the Arab political establishments, in civil society, in the vast majority, the conversations at least I've been having with Israelis, Jewish Israelis, Palestinian citizens of the state, Netanyahu is doing whatever he can to stay in power. But the actions currently are political actions. And this op-ed I just read you the title of is just another example of that being the case. There also was an article, this was also in Haaretz, saying that a hostage's mother, "I can't celebrate Passover while my son is still in Gaza." So Einav Zongacher, whose son Meitan is still being held hostage in Gaza, so that she cannot celebrate Passover, which begins tomorrow when he remains in captivity. "A mother cannot mark and celebrate the holidays in your absence. Love of my life," she wrote on social media. I just wanted to close as Passover is about to begin with a reading from Leah Solomon. She's a Jewish woman who lives here in Jerusalem. She wrote this in preparation of the Seder table on her Facebook page as Jews in Israel and around the world prepare to celebrate Pesach, Passover that begins this weekend. Leah Solomon says, "It's been an excruciating year, not only because of the incredibly violent reality here on the ground for both Israelis and Palestinians, but also because of the ways that that reality has rippled out into the world, hardening so many hearts to one people on this land or the other, sparking toxic demonization and dehumanization across social media, ripping apart communities, even severing lifelong relationships. We could barely see each other before October 7th and this brutal war, and now, ... Amidst it all, I, who am usually drawn to writing as a way of making sense of the world around me, have found myself mostly unable to write. Because the reality is not only horrific, but also disorienting and confusing, but also out of fear. Fear that I will be incapable of capturing the overwhelmingness of it all. Fear that my words will somehow be twisted to harm the people I care about. Fear that I will lose friends. In any year, I would have had that deep respect and appreciation for my Jewish and Palestinian colleagues who contributed to this collection of writings from Encounter. This year, I found their courage to share their voices as nothing short of extraordinary. Not only to speak their truth behind closed doors, but to be willing to put their pens to paper, to stand publicly behind their words, to be immortalized on the internet for all to read. Perhaps you've been trying to figure out how to celebrate the Seder this year amidst so much pain and suffering. These essays can help ground your Seder in the present moment. Perhaps they don't feel right for your Seder, but rather as reflections to sit with as you think about freedom this week. And I would also understand if you don't feel like you can engage them right now. I have felt that plenty this year. In any case, I hope that they might offer meaning to you in such a hard time, wishing all of us a meaningful Pesach, wishing all of those who are suffering safety and freedom. May it be so for all who are suffering, for all who are under the consequences of violence and the potential of being wounded and even death, for all who are seeking to worship. I think of the blood of the Passover lamb, right? That death would pass by their door. May it be so.